everybody, this is Paul Colligan, and I'm here today on the stage at Lisa Sasovich's Speak to Sell conference in front of an amazing audience. Audience, let them know you're here.
It's the Podcast Report with Paul Colligan. And here's Paul.
So we are chatting about podcasting. And I'm in front of an audience, and in this very special episode of the Podcast Report, as seen on Apple, we're going to chat about something that a lot of podcasters forget about. Something that a lot of podcasters let get in the way. A lot of podcasters tend to think it's about the tech. The conversation begins, what microphone? What noise filtering system? What codec? What setting? What audio production software? It's kind of sad. We get so good at the tech, we focus so much on the tech, we worry so much about the tech, that we forget what is it that we're telling. I've seen people spend 40 hours on the tech, 5 minutes on the content, and it's the best sounding piece of garbage I've ever heard in my life. I've heard other people spend 15 minutes on a 15-minute podcast, and it's wonderful stuff. In the back of the room, we have Dean Jackson from I Love Marketing. They have a podcast interview with Tony Robbins, where Tony describes really unrehearsed Tony, very raw Tony, why he loves marketing. I think Dean was at home on the phone during this one. Joe was on his phone, but I think the phone was on the other side of the room. Either that or he was calling, through a tunnel. Tony was in Fiji using the cheap internet access in Fiji, and it sounded like it. Audio-wise, terrible. Content-wise, stellar. Downloaded hundreds of thousands of times. And never once has anybody ever complained, the audio was bad. Didn't use the right codec. What's up with your mic? See, podcasting is a language of intimacy. Is a language of communication. It's a language of being raw. One of the questions I get all the time is, hey, Paul, how long should a podcast be? See, here's the great thing. A podcast should be just as long as it needs to be, and not 1 minute more. You ever watch the evening news, and boy, it was a 5-minute news night, and they gave it to me in 30 minutes. And have you ever watched the evening news and said, oh man, they didn't give me enough. I want more. This is the beauty of podcasting. We can give the audience exactly what we want. We can meet their need. Now, is this an excuse to sound like crap? No. But I'm on stage right now, sharing with this audience on a microphone that costs $20, giving them wisdom, and recording at the same exact time an episode of the Podcast Report, episode 68, The 2 Skills of Podcasting, that will be distributed to the world when this is done. Who thinks that's kind of cool? So, there are 2 things a podcaster needs to do. A podcaster needs to figure out the tech, but then the podcaster also has to figure out what to say. You know, that silly little comic image of welcome to my podcast. Today we're going to talk about things. To my audience, who is everyone. The tech's the easy part. Figuring out what to say is the hard part. Now, what's amazing about the audience I have to be in front of live is that they've been taught what to say. They're at Lisa Sasovich's Speak to Sell event. This is amazing. They have the formula. They have the process. They've just been looking for a vehicle to get their message out to the world. And I'll tell you, it's a thrill and it's an honor to introduce them to podcasting. So you're the podcaster. I want you to think about the time, the effort, the money you've spent on the equipment, you've spent on the technology, that you've spent on these things. And I want you to think, what about spending some of that money, some of that time, some of that effort on what it is that you're going to sell? I'm a big fan of Lisa and what she teaches. Let's find out if this room is. I will put a link to Lisa in the show notes. This is a very short episode of the Podcast Report. You can find the show notes at www.thepodcastreport.com/68 for episode 68. I'll link to Lisa and what she's doing. We just launched her podcast. She's done incredibly well. And yes, this is a shorter episode of the Podcast Report, but I do it to make a point that it's not that complicated, it's not that hard, and it's 2 points. It's the tech and the message. Thank you, everybody on stage, for having such a great message.